Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here, live edition. We have a confirmed breakout. Bitcoin had a wonderful day today. Thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen, my friends out in crypto land. Always a pleasure to have you. Remember to hit those likes. Remember to subscribe. If you are not a subscriber to the Node Investor channel, or if you don't follow me on Twitter, I ask that you at least go check it out. And many of you are subscribers. Many of you have been subscribers since the early days of Node Investor. And so thank you for being here. Always appreciate you guys. So Bitcoin is surging, but these experts are still skeptical. And, along with these faces, you can probably add a handful of bearish, perma-bearish, semi-perma-bearish YouTubers and other folks. And in light of all of that, we had a wonderful day today. And man, I got to say this week has been a good week of trading. I took a couple good USD tether pairs over the weekend. They finally hit. And then Bitcoin today. Can't complain, man. We need it after 2 months plus months of good grief. Finally getting a little bit of bullish action. So I'm going to go over all the charts. I'm going to be able to look at some names for you guys. And so thank you for being here. But it's always funny to see this. And, I bring up the news for a very important reason, because mainstream media, especially mainstream financial media, i.e. CNBC and some of these others, they like to have exciting headlines, and that's what they do, right? They're about views, and they bring out controversial opinion and conflicting points or things that are hot at the moment. And so, just think about it. 2 weeks ago, CNBC, Bitcoin stuck under 6,000. It's like, okay, it closed one day under 6,000. Like, it's not stuck. And so there's just a lot of that. And regardless of what the news says, Bitcoin is surging because of BlackRock. Bitcoin is surging because of Coinbase. Bitcoin is surging or falling because of this or because of that. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Some news drives it, absolutely. Whatever the SEC says, stuff like that. Yes, it has a factor. But I say all that to say this. At the end of the day, it's the charts. You guys know me. It's the charts. The charts don't lie, regardless of what the news has been or will be, ETF come in or not, or BlackRock. Who cares, right? This is what matters. This is what has been leading us to the breakout over the last couple of weeks. And it was very obvious, guys. I mean, if you did not see this pattern, for those of you that are in technical analysis, then you missed it, right? It was very obvious that this was setting up for a big breakout. It's never a guarantee, but odds favored, right? Precedent was there. The resistance levels were clear. The support levels were clear. I've been talking about this inverted head and shoulder here for the last 2 weeks in my newsletter. The first time I started mentioning it was when we failed to break above here. I said, hey, I pull back down, look for these two levels, and that held. And it was never a guarantee, but you always want to look one step ahead. And so the charts definitely give you clues if you're paying attention. And so it was there. It was nice to see the breakout. The breakout was fast and furious as expected. I mean, this is the 5-minute candle right here. And you can see that once we started to edge out and it was clear we were going into 6,800, there was a massive short covering squeeze. There was the conditional buy orders, the market orders, everything just started filling the books, and boom. I mean, it was literally 10 minutes. We went from 67, 80 or so to about 72, 75. I mean, a very fast move. It was very nice to see it happen live. I was on a private stream with my Slack group as it was starting. The market just felt like it was ready to go. We had a early signal here. This was a bullish engulfing candle after a pullback on the 4-hour chart. And once we closed there, that was kind of the early signal. Everything started looking like it wanted to rock at that point, and then didn't take long. Boom, we got the launch right after that. So went live with the group, and it was like, wait a minute, guys, time to do some live trading here, and jumped right on and actually took profits during that live stream. I think there's more to go, but we did hit a little bit of an extension. And hey, if you're trading BTC and you get 10+% in an hour, well, why not, right? Bank it. And so that's what I did, but I think there's more to go, but that's more short-term trading perspective. And so nonetheless, the bulls are excited. The market momentum has confirmed bullish mode here, at least in the near term. And somebody asked me a good question earlier. They said, hey, do you think the bear market is dead? Is that officially over? And the short answer to that is no, absolutely not. And so this is a tradable rally. I've been talking about a potential July rally for a couple of weeks here, just because, we were due, right? We were just hitting oversold levels. RSI was hitting extremes. We were finally seeing some bullish divergence. And so I was expecting more, as I said, than just a bear flag, counter trend bounce of 10%. I was expecting something more significant, more substantial. And so far, we're seeing that play out. But does this mean that the big term, long-term bear market is over? And the answer to that is no. So let's take a quick look at the long-term charts, and then we'll start deep diving and looking at some of the near-term action, as well as some of the alts, because the alts had an interesting reaction today. The USD pairs were doing well, but they were just not keeping up in terms of the BTC move. BTC, when BTC moves 10% in an hour or two, that's a massive move, and so the alts had a hard time keeping up with that. But we'll take a look at that. So looking at the weekly chart, here's a couple of things that I wanted to point out that were important. First, we had that double bottom on the weekly chart here. We had these two candles that formed a double bottom right around 5,800. Then we had that initial rally, and we had the pullback. And in my newsletter on Sunday, I said, this is going to be an important week because that's either a higher low on the weekly and also a higher low on the daily. And we already knew that the daily was forming that inverse head and shoulder, but just looking at the weekly, right? That was a double bottom week. We had the rally. We needed to test it. And a closing above this 7,400, 6,800 would have been, excuse me, I said 74, 6,700, 6,800 would have been confirmation that at least this is a nice little bit of an intermediate low. And so we saw that double bottom happen. It was also bumping into a little bit of a resistance zone here. You can see there we had this low on a closing basis, on the weekly basis, and the last couple of rallies were right to that. So we needed to get above that as well. And so there was a confluence of resistance levels here that were going to be significant. And right now we're seeing confirmation of that. But to answer the question, is the bear market over? Are we done? There's no confirmation of that yet. It could turn out, we could look back in retrospect and say, you know what? That couple of blips to the downside, sub 6K, that was it. That could absolutely turn out to be the case where that was the low and the market, decides to never see those levels again. But it's too early to tell. And so I've been talking about when we were forming this symmetrical triangle, I was talking about, hey, watch this pattern. Everybody was seeing this pattern, so that was pretty clear. But I remember mentioning the potential for a fake out, right? We were gonna break to the downside. Everyone's gonna get super bearish. The shorts were gonna start piling in, and there was the potential for a fake out, and then we just end up heading higher from there. And so that's still in the cards. That could absolutely happen, but now you got to watch this trend line, right? Once a trend line's broken, it's not unusual to see a retest of that. And so far we're seeing a bounce right into that. And so that's going to be important to watch that. It's going to be interesting to see, do we rally into that, pull back, and then break higher and negate that? That would be very nice to see. And we won't know unless we actually close above 7,700 or so. And so 7,700 on the daily chart, on the 4-hour chart, the very shorter term timeframes, that's my near-term big resistance level to be watching. And then ultimately, right, breaking this downtrend and starting to live above it and close. But at that point, you're talking 8,000, 9,000 BTC before people finally say, okay, the bear is done. So do you want to wait that long? I don't. So you got to take a shot sometimes with incomplete information. And that is the purpose of trading and investing. You never have complete information. If we all knew exactly how things would play out, we'd all be billionaires, right? And so let's zoom in. This is the 4-hour chart. Looking at the shorter term time frames here, Obviously, we broke out above this very significant resistance level here over the last couple of weeks. And man, this was a big pattern in the making. This was roughly 30, I think it was 35 days, 37 days in the making. So it's a big bottom, right? It's a big reversal bottom pattern. It was 36 bars in the making, breaks out on 37. And so that's very significant. But going to the 4-hour chart here, now this should become strong support. So now the fact that it's broken above this resistance level is now strong support. So you do not want to see this level breached, especially on a closing basis. And so looking at that, on the upside, the next targets to watch, and I'm looking at a zone and not a specific number. The easy number is that 7,700 zone right above that, because that's his prior resistance point here. That's also the rough measured move of this inverse head and shoulder pattern. And so that's kind of the first upside target. But there's, let me move this here, sorry. But there's actually a lower level that I'm watching here. You can see that's almost an exactly perfect measured move to that top resistance level. And then I'm also watching the roughly 7,500 level. And let me put the line there, right and around there. And you can see the rally paused just below that here today. And so the short-term targets here right now are here. And I'll be honest with you, I did not expect it to go right there in basically 1 or 2 bars. I was looking for, you know, we'd break out, maybe we'd see a little throwback and we'd start marching higher. I expected a pretty strong breakout over 68, but I was surprised when it went that high that fast. It was like watching it live. I was going, "Wow, we're gonna hit my target like in an hour." Like that was crazy. So I was kind of surprised. But this is kind of my near-term window right now. So on the daily chart, if you go to the daily, the 4-hour RSI is crazy overbought. So is the 1 hour. The daily has room to go, right? The daily is right at 66, just now barely crossing into the bull zone. And so this has room to go. I'd like to see a little bit of a pause pullback, because then that will set up for a stronger move higher, and maybe we clear that initial target to the upside. And so that's going to be the area that I'm looking at. If you were short, hopefully you had some stops in here, because that was a very fast run. So looking for a secondary entry point here. I know some of you guys are saying, where do I jump in? How do I get there? So let's look at that, and let me take these levels out. Let me show you real quick, right? The RSI on the 4-hour is at 88, almost 89. That's high. Okay, so don't forget about that, right? The fact that it is extended. The 1 hour is cooling off a little bit as this thing pauses. I personally would like to see a little bit more of a dip. But there's 2 ways to get a secondary entry. Either you need price, meaning we dip further, or you need time. It just needs to sit tight for a while and cool off a little bit, and let some of these technicals cool off, set up a little bit more of a base here near the highs, and then that'll set up for another launching, another leg up. But personally, I'd rather see another dip. I'd like to start re-entering some positions on a pullback. I do have some dip buy orders there in place in case we do see kind of these quick wicks to the downside, and I'll start to fill up again on some of those. But so for now, there's 2 ways to do it. You can always use a moving average. And looking at the 4-hour, the 10 EMA is way down here, so that's not going to help. Looking at the 1 hour, the 10 EMA is starting to quickly catch up here. It's now at around 71.40, so 71.50, call it around there. That's not too bad here, so that would be kind of the first level I'm looking at. The shorter term time frames are already there. I think that might be a little too aggressive considering how extended this is on the 1 hour and the 4 hour. And the other way to look at it too is a retracement level. So if you do just a fib analysis on just this impulse leg, so just the move up to the top here, if you do an analysis on just that level, let me move this over here, you can see the first retracement level, the key level at 382, is basically at 7,200. And then below that, you get a 50% at 71.20, 71.30, depending on where you put these lines, but in and around 7,100, 7,150. And then the 618, which is generally a strong level that holds on a pullback just above 7,000. And so those are the levels that I'm going to be watching for if you get that quick spike to the downside. These are kind of the key levels. And I have some buy orders kind of set along the way. My biggest orders are here at the lower end with some smaller ones near the top. I have an alternative strategy to get in as well. It's going to be more pattern-based and price action-based. So if it doesn't dip that far, but there's something else that happens above this 382 level, then I'll be looking to jump in there and look for another leg up. But we definitely need a time to just kind of sit tight for a little bit. So, but hey, guys, in the big picture, I mean, thank goodness, right? I mean, this was a rough period for a lot of traders. Unless you're going short and able to catch some of these bear flags, it was a nice short period. The bag, you know, the hodlers, altcoins got smacked during this whole period. And so the fact that we, you know, had this long transition period starting in mid-June, and it took the better part of a month to develop this transition is very positive. The fact that we've seen this breakout, guys. And so this is good. Near term, yes, we can have some volatile action. We can pull back. In fact, I expect it. I hope we see some pullback. But near term, you know, that's what it is. Look at the big picture of the daily. This is a very positive turn in the trend. And so what I'm looking for now, the strategy has now shifted because for most of this period here, my trading has been very tight, right? The quick trades, if you will, looking at the shorter term time frames, taking the quick 10% if you can get it, all that stuff. Now I'm looking for some longer term swing trades as well as secondary entries strategies, right? So you're looking for pullbacks on an uptrend. You're looking for breakouts from continuation patterns. You're looking for that sort of thing here. All right, are we finally getting the dump? That's good. Well, it's not good if you're holding it, but I was looking for a pullback, so cool. Looks like only a few alts are outperforming right now. Do you think that will change? I personally do, and you're right. The alts, let's take a quick look at some of these alts. I mean, just looking at the big names, right? Ethereum, BTC, got smacked here versus Bitcoin at least. I mean, everything from a USD pair had a nice breakout, but you can see the alts were, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, showing similar patterns here as Bitcoin went out of range. And that's because they were just having a hard time keeping up. I mean, Bitcoin moving 10% in such a little bit of time, the alts were not showing that strong of a rally. But if you look at ETH USD, you can see that it performed nicely too, right? It was breaking out of a double bottom pattern. Looking at this daily, it's still looking good. In fact, I really like this setup here. Excuse me, guys. I really like that setup there for a double bottom pattern and looking for a retracement there on BT or on ETH USD. But versus BTC, yeah, the alts are certainly underperforming near term, but I expect that once Bitcoin kind of has its initial run, you'll see some rotation into some of these alts. And so that's what I'm looking for here. You can see versus BTC, ETH on the daily chart is still not strong, right? It's still underperforming. On the 4 hour was hitting these oversold levels, and the 1 hour definitely hitting oversold levels. So it's due for a little bit of a counter trend bounce, hopefully, and see some performance versus Bitcoin. And we're hitting a key support level here on Ethereum BTC. So I'd like to see that reversing and find some support in and around here. But let's go back to here. Let me see. You're looking at switching into alts. No phones not allowed, Node. You're right. I forgot to silence it before I started my stream here. I had Jamie Dimon calling. He was saying, hey, what do you think? Should I close out my short? And I told him, no, don't. Just leave it open until Bitcoin hits 10K and then close it out. All right. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, what's going on with Salt? Salt had some bad news, by the way. Somebody posted that in my group earlier, and I was watching Salt. We'll take a look at those here. BTC, let me go back to the chart. Is it finally pulling in a little bit? Everyone's getting nervous. Oh, my God, it's dumping. We're going to see the big pullback during the stream today. It's okay. Now I lost track. Let me look at some of these comments here, guys. Thanks for being here. Remember to smash that like button, and As always, I appreciate it. Look, you know what? Let me take a segue before I forget, and then we'll keep going. As you guys know, I keep this channel ad-free, commercial-free, banner-free, just because I know you guys don't like ads, and you don't want me posting 10 ads before you watch my video and then shilling you my courses and stuff. So I'm just going to do the latter only and keep it ad-free. If you're not already familiar, nodeinvestor.com, you can get my technical analysis fundamentals course. And this is kind of the intro to technical analysis. And I know many of you are already well-versed in TA. And so I've got some good stuff coming down the pipe for you. I've been working on it this month. I have a goal of releasing it, at least part of it, by the end of July. And it's going to be more trade strategy, a little bit more advanced technical analysis. But this will definitely come in handy because I'm not going to cover some of the real basics in that course. It's going to be just kind of the meat, if you will. And so check that out, $49. However, got a new product going here. If you want to get this, I don't want to say for free, but if you want this included, there is the alerts, Node Insider Alerts product, and we will be adding any training course that I do to this. So if you're a subscriber to the Node Insiders Alerts, you will get access to all of the training and future training that I put out. And so that'll be there. And you can get more information on both of these at nodeinvestor.com. There's a link to the Node Insiders page here on the homepage, and that's nodeinsiders.com. Okay, enough with the commercial, enough with the selling, and that's it. That's it for the day. So let's get back to the charts here. All right, so let me see here. Let me catch up with your comments, ladies and gentlemen. And we will look at a few other alts before we get back to some of these others. Node Insiders, you haven't seen this. Yeah, I haven't advertised it a whole lot because we're still adding some features to it. I've been using it, and my Slack group has been using it for the last probably 3 months. But I think you guys will like it. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the other names here. I'm going to start jotting down some names. I have a list of names that I want to look at, and I know you guys probably want to look at too. And so I'm going to start jotting some names down. We will look at the big names first. So let's look at ETH again one more time, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Cardano, Neo, and let me see what else. Zen. Yeah, let's take a look at Zen. WAN Chain was one I was watching here earlier. Monero, ARC, we're setting up. Let's look at the Coinbase 5. So we'll include BAT, we'll include 0x, Lumens. I've already covered Cardano, and let me see here. What else? Pay, yeah, Pay. Man, 10x has been crazy. Let's look at ICX. Ontology, poor Ontology, VeChain, poor VeChain. Let's definitely look at those because, man, I'm sitting on my hands trying not to buy those. Those guys are crazy oversold here. Pay had some news around a bank license, and they've been kind of pumping that here. Dig, Melissa. Oh, man. Mana, all right. EOS, how could I forget EOS? Salt on a run? All right, we'll take a look at Salt. Nano, yeah. Tron. I think Nano's a pretty good longer-term entry here, in my opinion, just because it's at the lower, or let's just say it's a favorable risk-reward entry here. BitConnect. Oh. Aeon. All right, I got a bunch of names, so let's pause there. I don't want to lose the comment because I know they'll just keep scrolling and I'll miss them. And then Stratus was definitely one of the stronger names here today. Trace. I'll look at Trace. Okay, that's enough for now. Let's go through those because I've got I don't know, 20 names or so, and then we'll come back and see how we're doing on time and go from there. All right, so looking at some of the bigger names first, we already talked ETH, BTC. Let's look at the ETH USD pair. I'm liking this setup from a double bottom perspective on the chart here. So if you look at the daily chart, Let me clear some of these old lines so not to confuse you. But looking at the daily chart, pretty clear little double bottom here forming on Ethereum USD. The confirmation of that was a break above 486.47. We clearly got that on the move with Bitcoin here today, and that also cleared some support resistance back in here. So pretty good move, well above average volume, which is what you want to see on a breakout. So that was very nice all around. And so I'm liking this on an upside target here based on just this move. I'll take the conservative point of view and use that there. If we extrapolate that out, you're looking at about 550 or so, which lines up relatively well with this little resistance swing high there. So you can say between 540 550 is the near term target on this double bottom entry. Doesn't mean it has to stop there, but that's kind of the first technical target. And so zooming in a little bit to the 4-hour chart, if you get a little bit of a throwback type of thing, that's what I'm going to be looking for, that kind of a pullback. But versus BTC, as we already saw, it's already very oversold. So it could just start outperforming here and moving higher. So that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Clearly, BTC was the place to be here today as opposed to some of these alts, but I'm thinking they're going to start to play a little bit of catch up here. Yeah, NEM was on my watch list earlier today, sharing that with the group. We'll definitely take a look at that. So looking at ETH, it's setting up there. It's pretty good there. Litecoin. Let's go Litecoin dollar first. And I'm going to go daily chart here. And apparently I made a mess of this chart already. Let me clear some of this here. Who wants to see all this mess? Oh man. All right. So let me clear that. There we go. So Litecoin has been one of the laggards here, but look at so many patterns are forming similar reversals, right? You get this double bottom, you got inverse head and shoulders everywhere. And the fact that it's not just Bitcoin, but across the board just tells me that the market structure is stronger here, right? It's showing some positive price action, some reversals, and you're seeing some strong volume coming in. So Litecoin as well broke and cleared above this double bottom. Now, this daily candle on all of these, it's not complete yet. So as long as it holds here, it'll look very positive. We've got about, what is that, an hour basically left in the daily candle. And so that's what I'm going to be watching here as some of these names start to close out the day, but it's going to be positive. And so any kind of throwback to this little 87, maybe 85 area is what I'm going to be looking at, or a pause, right? If we get a little bit of a pause and some continuation, that'll be good too. But can't complain about Litecoin here. Just a strong volume, gave you that pullback, and really this was the entry here, and it followed through with Bitcoin, right? You had that pullback, and then you had that bullish engulfing candle in the 4-hour. That was kind of the early entry, otherwise the breakout. So all in all, Litecoin's looking pretty good. Let's see how Litecoin looks from BTC wise. I haven't checked that out yet. Litecoin BTC, man, still living below the 10 EMA here on this chart. So definitely not as strong as some of the other alts here. Sorry about that. Let me move this. And so I'd really like to see this guy reverse here for now. I mean, it's still underperforming and it's having a hard time getting above this little bit of resistance right in and around there. So got to get above that. Bitcoin Cash, also another double bottom breakout today. So looking at Bitcoin Cash, broke out of this little bit of a double bottom here. That was at 784 or so. And we're moving higher, moving nicely there. Let's see how it looks versus BTC. Not too bad, actually holding up relatively well. Get some high volume pullback here, but it's still living above the 10 EMA, so it's looking pretty good here. I'm betting there's a bullish divergence on that RSI on this low. There is not a huge one, but there is. It's kind of hard to see when I have the chart scrunched up there, but you can see when you start to see, that secondary low, but the RSI doesn't make a new low, you start paying attention there, right? Those names are starting to reverse, and Bitcoin Cash, along with many other names, were forming that similar type of action. So it was in the cards there. So looking at the near term, Wow, that's a big reversal here. So I'd like to see this guy hold right here because this could form a nice secondary entry if it holds here in the near term. So I'm going to be watching. Right now it's trying to bounce, so that looks good, but it's got to break this downtrend right now. It's making a little bit of a pullback versus Bitcoin. USD pair is looking okay. Ripple, man, Ripple got smacked earlier too. Sorry, I don't want to laugh. It's just I was looking at something else. Well, I do want to laugh actually. So Ripple, I was really liking this support that it was setting up. I was watching this yesterday. It was looking nice. Like it finally found a little bit of a base, had that fake out and then the shakeout, just couldn't keep up with BTC. And so versus Bitcoin, yes, it's lagging a little bit. XRP on the US dollar pair, it looks good. It actually broke out. And, you know, just with so many names, they look this way, right? So it's kind of, would you rather be in Bitcoin? Are you diversified? If you're just trading for USD, you know, value, then it's fine, right? Because a trade is a trade, and you're making gains here, so that's fine. But obviously, if you look at the BTC pairs, the best place to be, at least earlier today, would have been just in Bitcoin for now. So looking at that, this looks good here. You can see it's hitting a little bit of resistance right here. And so kind of pausing would make sense to see a little bit of a handle form there. And that would actually set up a nice little pattern here from which it could break out. And look at that. This resistance also aligns with resistance support back here. And so this is a significant level versus the USDT. And so in and around 51 cents basically is the level to watch. If you get a little bit of a pause here and a pullback, that'd be great. A little handle there would set up for a nice breakout. And so Ripple is definitely one I'm going to keep an eye on here from a trading perspective. All right, let's see here. Cardano. There's a question here. Bitcoin RSI is overbought. Is that a bad sign? So the short answer to that is on the certain time frames it is, and others it's not. So it depends, right, on your strategy. From a daily perspective, it's nowhere near being overbought, and so it has room to run on a daily price basis. But you know, put it wiggle and give you some quick pullbacks before it goes higher. Absolutely, because the 4-hour is most certainly hitting overbought levels on the RSI. And so from a daily, right, we're just now breaking into bull zone 65. I'd like to see this kind of pause, pull back, give you another leg up. That's fine from there. From the 4-hour perspective, it is overbought, but the momentum is just so strong, right? That's what continued to push it higher, the short covering there. And then, of course, the 1-hour is cooling off a little bit now, but it was here near 87, 88 at one point earlier, so it's pulling it back. So it depends on what time frames you're using, what your strategy is, right? If you're day trading, you know, you're not going off the daily charts, you're going off of shorter term time frames. If you're just kind of swing trading or looking for longer holds, then you probably don't care about the smaller wiggles per se. But yes, it is overbought. So, and just to recap, right, because something is overbought doesn't necessarily mean it's in a crash. There's a couple of ways it can resolve itself, right? If it just sits tight here and forms a continuation pattern, a consolidation, naturally the RSI will drift lower as it sits tight. And so that's fine too. Alternatively, yes, you can have the retracement and then a break higher. And so there's a couple of ways it could resolve itself. Price or time. Am I into Lisk? I don't have any Lisk at the moment, but we will look at the charts. Let's keep going through some of these others real quick here. And I'll keep checking out the comments here and trying to answer those along the way. Looking at Cardano, I'm going to see Cardano BTC first. One of the Coinbase 5 here. And remember, everybody thought it was just like crazy extended here. I missed this trade too, man. This was a nice setup on the 4-hour or on the 1-hour when it had that pullback here. So, but it's okay. It's okay. Looking at Cardano here. Let me go to the 1-hour. Finally pulling in a little bit. It is finally. I mean, this was a nice secondary entry. Give you that run. Looks like it wants to pause here a little bit. Going to the daily, however, I mean, this is just basically at the neckline of a double bottom, right? So a big picture, it's just now kind of setting up, right? If you look at the bigger picture, you see the resistance here at this prior base that broke down. We had the pullback, nice rally, pullback, double bottom, and here we are testing that. So You get a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a handle here. I mean, this has room to go if it wants to break out. Even though it looks extended on the 4-hour, 1-hour big picture, it still looks pretty good here. So I'm liking Cardano from that perspective. Neo. All right, Neo. God, Neo shook me out this weekend. I had a nice trade set up on Neo, and it shook me out. So looking at Neo, I'm going to take the volume off here. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So this was kind of a nice intermediate setup here. You're basically getting a little bit of a throwback, right, to this early entry here on Neo. This was right on versus BTC, by the way. I'll look at the dollar pair right now, but you get a nice reversal pattern here versus Bitcoin on the 4-hour, following this big run it had a couple weeks ago and kind of trying to form a little bit of a low here. So I'd like to see some follow through on the upside. But if you look at Neo on the dollar, do pattern here on Binance here. Even though it's had this nice little bit of a run, I'd like to see a pause here because Neo on the daily chart is just now breaking or testing a neckline here, and a break above this, call that 4150 or so, a close above that is going to be a confirmed break about out of this pattern. And then at that point, I'm looking for Neo 50 to 54 or so is kind of the next target on Neo. So yeah, it's had a nice run, but this is just now starting to get going, in my opinion. So this one's still looking pretty good, and even from the breakout point, that's a 30% run potential on Neo. So I'm liking it here. I'd like to see a little bit of a pause, pull back. It looks like you're getting it right now, just right below this breakout point. So that level, $40 or so, is the level to be watching here. Neo. Zen. I haven't seen this one in a little bit. Let's go to Zen here, man. Here, let me clear some of this stuff. So it looks like it's finally, so this is the daily on Zen BTC. It had that nice pullback here, right to support. Look at that, how that happens, right? You have this breakout point, you get the rally, very typical to get a throwback. You don't always get it, but it's very, very common. And now it's trying to move off of that support. So that's good to see. Looks like it's found that low point here, and I'm guessing this is a big volume move here today on very strong volume. So that's nice. And so this would be a good secondary entry for a little bit more of a swinger trade. But that's, that stop point here is probably about 10%. So that's a wide stop. But you kind of have to with names like this. They're just so, look how big these candles are. I mean, they just naturally move that way. Zen BTC, interesting. All right, let me see here. Can you do ARC? Yes, I will do ARC. I've got it on the list here. A couple more, and then we'll get to ARC. Let me see. WAN chain broke out. Oh man, I missed that one. I missed it. You can't catch them all. I was watching this one here on the pullback. So I had this breakout right here. You can see on the 4-hour, this is a beautiful secondary entry potential, right? You get this trend, and then what you look for is a break above that trend. You can see we got it on some huge volume, and now it's starting to follow through. And man, we were watching this one live real time earlier today, and they had just wicked above, and it pulled right back, and I was like, oh, I don't know about WAN chain, and then it just started going. It's still good long term. I would have liked to take that one here as an early entry. But looking at the big picture, nice little double bottom here with bullish divergence on the RSI. And so you can see you've got this double bottom here. You've got the RSI there. And that's looking good. And it's actually a long ways from confirming, right? It still has to get that high before you actually confirm a double bottom. Could it just turn out to be a lower high and then make a lower low? It absolutely could, because so far that's been the trend, right? So you got to keep an eye on that. But the fact that it's made this big move off the low with divergence looks positive, but certainly hasn't broken this pattern of lower lows and lower highs. But still looking good for the shorter term. Would have made a nice little trade entry right around there. How far has it moved since then? It's only up 4%. I might have to take a look at it. It's not too bad. I may be willing to live with that. All right, so here. Who's next on my list? Monero. I'll give you guys a preview here. Monero, ARC, BAT, 0x, Lumens, Pay. And I do have VEN on the list. Soon to be VET. But let's see. Monero. Ooh, Monero. Monero was setting up nicely here too. Let me go to another exchange here. Monero Tether. Does Polo still do Monero pairs? I remember Polo used to do Monero pairs. I haven't been on Polo in who knows how long. But looking at the USD side here, nice little move here. It's right at resistance here. You can see it's struggling to clear that near-term resistance right now. So that's going to really be the level to be watching. It's about 144 and change, call it 145. And versus BTC, you can see it was taking a little bit of a hit today as the market moved strongly, like so many of the alts here. Let me find it on Binance. Here it is. Didn't go over Strat yet. Strat's definitely on the list. One of the stronger names here today. It's a Monero had this nice breakout, and just look at that, pulled right back in. So until that turns the corner here, it was looking ideal right here on this pullback to the moving average, but I didn't want to preempt it. I was waiting for it to kind of turn the trend here. Never did. Just continue to pull in. So for now versus BTC, not looking too strong until that thing starts to reverse there. ARC setting up here. I'm liking ARC. And so off the lows, you can see it had that little bit of a breakout, pull back, trying to rally here. Needs to clear this little resistance around 2130. Big picture though, looking at the daily, a little bit of a double bottom. So clearing above this near-term resistance will start to round out the second half of that second low, and ultimately you get confirmation above 2450 or so. A close above that would be the double bottom close, and so that's looking pretty good from a more intermediate term perspective. But ARC, a little bit of a double bottom action going on there. That's looking pretty good. Basic attention, bats. Looking at the bats, finally pulling in here. The bats pulling. Let me clear all this stuff here. It's pulling right back to the 10 EMA / trend line on this pattern to be watching here. So looking at the weekly, very rarely do I pull up the the big picture weekly chart here, but looking at this weekly, I was looking at this trend line, and if you want to make it more exact, do candle bodies, it's probably more like that. The daily, it's a little different. Nonetheless, big pattern that it's breaking out of here. Looking at the daily, we all know what happened, right? On the 13th, that was Coinbase saying, hey, we're looking at these names, BAT being one of them. And now we're getting a little bit of a throwback kind of pullback here. So the level to be watching is going to be, that's kind of strong support, shorter term support. It's already broken it. I was looking at this little consolidation here as kind of the first level. We're just now breaking below that. And so BAT's pulling in a little bit. So I was keeping an eye on this, hoping for another leg up on a breakout here. Guess we're not getting that yet. But looking at the 10 EMA on the daily, though, that looks pretty good there on that daily chart. See if it could hold that level. That's a big reversal bar, though. That's a big candle. It's an engulfing candle. Look at that outside, big wick to the top, closing here near the lows. And we've got about 45 minutes left on the close here. 0x. I'll quickly go through the Coinbase names here just to kind of take a look at these. This one's still trending nicely on the daily. You got a nice secondary higher low here forming, as long as it stays above this. I mean, it could pull back further, but that's kind of the retracement level to be watching here on the daily. But still looking pretty good here. 0x. I think it's one that's definitely going to be added on Coinbase here. So not too bad. You can see it paused right at this resistance here, but still has room to go on the daily chart versus BTC. Lumens. Lumens. Let me go XLM on Binance here first. There it is. Nice little breakout earlier today, pulling in, but this one's been holding up relatively strong. This is the stellar BTC pair, and this was the Coinbase announcement day. You had that quick pullback and a nice little rally afterwards. still holding up. So this one's looking pretty good. Let's see if we can maintain that. I'd like to see a little pause here on some of these names that had such a strong move. It'd be nice to see like an ascending triangle or some sort of like bear flag, or not bear flag, a bull flag type of action form there. That'd be nice because it would set up a good structure from which you can maybe take another leg up. Hey, 10x, man, has been moving. Look at this here. Let me clear that. We had that initial pump a few days back here. Big retracement, and then just here today, just really moving here strongly in the last couple of days. But 10x, how big is this going here? Jeez, almost 100% in a couple of days there. Very nice move on 10x. But even the daily is extended at this point. I mean, look at the RSI on the daily. It's at 80. So not saying it's not going higher. I just don't like to buy names that have a daily RSI that high. Binance or Icon. I'll do Binance next. Looking at Icon, man, Icon has just still making lower lows. When is it going to end? Living below the 10 EMA on the daily. This is versus BTC here, and just not showing any sign of turning the corner yet. If it starts to move higher and wants to round the corner out, this is going to be the first level to watch, right? Every time it has one of these little swing lows, that becomes a support level. If it breaks below it, that becomes a new resistance level. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for on this guy. If it starts to turn the corner, I'm going to see if it can at least start closing above that. Because I like the project. I think it's good longer term. Right now, it's just the trend has not been your friend since it topped out in May here. And it's just kind of really going. Actually, it topped out earlier. This one topped out end of April and still has not recovered yet. So how much has this fallen on market cap here? Let me go to here. Let's see what ICX looks like these days. Come on, Icon. $626 million was at one point over 4 billion, 4.5 billion. In April was still at 1.8 billion. So it's had quite the pullback here, hitting some historic levels here from a price and market cap perspective. So one to look at around here. Well, $1.62. Interesting. All right. Next, wrong one here. There we go. I'm going to close this out. We don't need those. We don't need that. Okay. So Icon, yep. Still not there yet. BNB. So looking at Binance on the BTC pair, man, look at this big reversal bar here today, on at least versus Bitcoin. Yesterday, the rally went right to the 10 EMA, couldn't close above it. Now we're seeing the big pullback on strong volume, big engulfing candle here on the daily, but it's still above the breakout point versus Bitcoin. And this is where I want to see it hold. And so this level here is important to be watching here. It's basically back into that buy zone that I was looking for from a long-term perspective. And so I'm going to be keeping an eye on it here to see if we can get a reversal finally. I did do a quick trade on this last couple days here from a USD pair perspective, took profit on that. This was a kind of a conditional buy breakout order. I was looking at this 1245 over the weekend, EOS, a couple others, and this one jumped on it here as it broke out, took profits on that yesterday, and then obviously I didn't get this second leg up, but that's okay because I was on BTC, and it looks like that was the better place to be. So, but still looking good from this perspective. And this is similar in terms of, look at where it held, right? It came right back to this long-time support level right around that 1170, 1180, pulled right back to it and found some good support, and now we're bouncing off. So from a USD pair perspective, it looks good. And it's sitting right at support on the BTC chart. So definitely want to be watching here. It's running into a little bit of resistance here, going into $14. And that makes sense that, that's going to kind of be the first level resistance. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a pullback here. Ontology, still nothing. Has been one of the weaker names here as of late. Looking at Ontology, I was watching this as a potential breakout. Let me hide the volume here to clear this up a little bit. Looking at a potential breakout, you saw this pattern forming, this little bit of a wedge, and it just has not cleared to the upside yet versus Bitcoin. still just making newer lows. So not strong from that perspective. USD pair made for a nice little trade too, though. Now this had breakout, making a series of higher lows, so just marching along nicely. And this one's looking good from that perspective. So I'd like to see some of this positive price action start rolling over into the BTC side and start outperforming. So if it starts to bounce versus Bitcoin, you can see a nice little rally here on Ontology. But for now, to be honest, I mean, if you're going with just the trend, obviously the trend has been lower, right? And that's been the nature. And this is a little bit of a counter trend rally. And that could be it, right? You could just see that and then make a new low. So it's definitely not bullish. It's been a nice little tradable counter trend rally, but it's not necessarily strong per se. VeChain, another one. Man, VeChain. Let me go to VeChain Tether here on Binance first. Crazy action here down the low. Saw some big wicks there yesterday. Looking at VeChain on the BTC pair, though. I mean, I've been watching this one thinking it's got to be bottoming out here soon. Just crazy oversold on the daily even. Look at the daily RSI on VeChain is hitting the teens. And so I'm watching this action here, but I'm not going to do anything until I actually see a reversal happen first. But man, VeChain. And I like the project. I think it's a great project long-term, good team. I mean, just a lot of solid things to consider about VeChain. But just notice this support and resistance level. Once it broke this support here, you've seen a pretty sharp move to the downside. I think it's getting close from a time perspective, from a price perspective. It's anyone's guess, but you can see the price action is accelerating. It's almost getting parabolic now. And just like you see it going on the upside, right? When something starts doing that, eventually it's going to at least need to pause, bounce a little bit. So I think we're getting close. Would not surprise me to see a little bit of a counter trend reversal on this guy this week. But from what price does that happen is anyone's guess. So I'm going to just wait until this thing clears some near-term resistance before doing anything with it. But it's definitely oversold. Let's keep going here. EOS on the dollar first. Nice little counter trend pattern setting up here. Double bottom just now. Going to start breaking out here. Did a nice little trade on this one here over the weekend as well. And some of these are just conditional buy orders. I mean, that's really all they were. I was looking at where did I get filled on EOS? I'm trying to remember where I got filled on EOS. I don't remember. I think it was 725 is where I got filled on EOS. I'm not in it right now from a trading perspective. I took profits on that. But look at that. It was a breakout, a throwback, and then you get the nice little bit of a rally. And this is where I actually ended getting out of the way here. But EOS is still looking pretty good. Now, on the daily chart, it's setting up here. Yeesh. Let me clear that. The daily chart still looks good, though. I mean, this is a nice little double bottom on EOS dollar and setting up nice. And remember what I was talking about here, that $7 mark on EOS has been a significant price point. And you can see this pattern formed right around that. We had $7 here. We had $7 here. Well, that's $7.50. We had $6.99 there. We had $7.08 there. So this $7 price point historically has shown to be a key structure price points. And so the fact that we had this nice double bottom form in and around that level with some not really bullish divergence, but still looking pretty good, looks well from a more intermediate time perspective. So I know they had some news and block one and all that fun stuff, but EOS, we'll send up here. EOS BTC now. Looking at EOS BTC, it's trying to turn the corner here. Not too bad. Does it count as a double bottom even though the second one is a bit lower? It does. In fact, if the second one is lower, I prefer those double bottoms than if the second one is higher, just because it kind of undercuts the what do you call it, the stops and all that. It makes a new lower low, but then if you see a bullish divergence on the RSI, it just makes for a nicer double bottom. So I actually prefer double bottoms that look like that, right? As opposed to, I mean, if you get perfectly symmetrical ones, that's nice. If you get, You know, the higher one, that's fine too. I mean, a double bottom, there's different variants, right? And then there's the Adam and Eve and all that Eve stuff, Adam, that you're getting a little technical there, but it's still double bottom. But looking at the BTC side, you can see this current rally is pausing right here at the support, right? So on the daily, yes, it's forming a little bit of a double bottom, but you can see we had this pullback, this rally right to this resistance point. So this is a key level to be watching. I'd like to see this pause, and you're seeing a pause now, so that's good. And then look for a breakout above this little zone here. So setting up, it's setting up. Doesn't count as a lower low. Technically, it is a lower low. And it doesn't confirm a double bottom until it breaks above the neckline. So until it does, it's both, right? You're looking at a double bottom potential. Let's call it that. It's a setup for a double bottom, but it has not confirmed the double bottom. All right, let's see here. A few more. Salt. Nice little rally here off of Salt. This one too has had a bullish divergence showing up here, and just crazy oversold as this pattern starts to play out. And so looking at that there, but I know there was some actually very negative news on Salt earlier today that someone had shared with them, changing the way you can pay back the loans using Salt and all that stuff. I would have thought that would have been seeing the opposite reaction, but you're getting a pretty good pump on some of these names. And it's interesting because somebody was actually asking me about Salt a couple days ago, and they were saying, "Hey, how's Salt? You know, they're not really into crypto." And I was like, "Why Salt? Of all the names, why Salt?" And he said, "Oh, somebody was talking to me about it a few months back, and we pulled up the charts, and you know, it was kind of one of those, wow, Salt was at $17-18 one point, and now it's like at $1. We looked at it the other day; it was like $1.16 or something. But yeah, it's still down here near the lows. Just crazy, the valuation reset that you saw on some of these names. So they have room to run on the upside, even a counter trend rally. You're seeing some of that action show up on some of these small names now. Let's see here. Ethereum Classic. Some of you guys are asking about that one here. And let's see, versus BTC. Looks like it's finally breaking trend here. Let me go to the daily chart. This wasn't a nice little steady uptrend here. It's gotten very choppy and messy here. Now it looks like it's made a high, a low, a lower high, and definitely breaking the neckline there. So right now the momentum is leaning to the downside on this guy here. If you do a retracement, let's do from kind of the entire move, you would be looking at, you're right at the 382 right now. So that's kind of the first retracement level. See if it can hold. Then you got the 50%, 618 down in around here. And on the USD side, take a look at that. And I'm going to take a quick pause, go back to Bitcoin. I know some of you guys are just joining. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin charts here, and then we'll cycle back to some of these alts, and I'll give you my thoughts on Bitcoin dominance and where I think that can head next. So looking at this one here, you've had this pullback, nice little higher low here. So from the USD pair, that looks good. But, you know, it just kind of depends, right? I mean, this is pumping from this angle just because of Bitcoin's really strong move today. So will it continue? Obviously, on the BTC side, it's pulling in. So, all right, let's take a quick pause here, and we will look at the BTC. So looking at Bitcoin, everyone is well aware by now we had the strong breakout out of this head and shoulder reversal pattern. Very nice to see that action. It was fast and furious today, and that's considering, look at the RSI yesterday, hit a peak of around 81 on a closing basis on the 4-hour. We only had 2 candles of pullback. I mean, a very mild pullback, was just barely enough to pull that RSI down, and then we had the quick rally. I'll do NAM. I'm not done with the list. I just wanted to cover BTC here for those that just joined. And so we had that big breakout, and once we broke about that, you know, there was the short covering, there was the market orders, everybody started to pile in, and so you had the rally. Looking at the 5-minute chart, 5 minutes, you can see it was just very quick, right? 10 minutes there, we had a pause, one more leg, and then since then we've just kind of been sitting tight. And so what we need now is we need price or time to kind of cool things off a little bit here. So you've got this pullback right now, forming a little bit of a bull flag. The 382 level is, I believe, at 7,200. Let me check. So yeah, 7,200 at the 382 level. So that's kind of first target on this pullback. That would give you a touch to the 10 EMA on the 1 hour, and so that would be enough to cool off a little bit. Maybe give you one more leg on the 4 hour. It's still elevated from that perspective. You got the RSI still sitting at 89. Doesn't mean it can't go higher, but it's absolutely extended from that perspective. And so on the upside, right, we're seeing a little bit of resistance forming here. My ultimate target, though, is kind of that 7,500 to 7,700 for this initial run. Maybe we get a pullback along the way. And man, I honestly, I was surprised that it gave you that strong of a move so quickly, right? I was thinking, we'll break out, we'll maybe go to 7,000 and pull back and then have another run. And no, it just gave it to give us the whole move in one shot. And hey, I'm okay with that. I'll take it. But that's what I'm looking at here. So best scenario right now would just be sit tight for a few 4-hour bars, let things cool off a little bit, and that would really set up another run higher. So on the downside, 6,800 now is strong support, must hold level. And so that's the level to be looking at from the downside. All right, let's keep going through the list here. Nano, looking at Nano. So I was looking at this one earlier. Nano had a nice throwback yesterday. Wow, and it's still going, so good. And somebody in my group was asking me about this one. They liked it here. It had that breakout. You see the pullback, and this bullish engulfing candle was kind of that was the signal there, right? That big reversal. Still going. From a daily perspective, it still looks good, though. I mean, it's just now starting to show some bottoming action, and hasn't quite confirmed yet from that perspective, right? If you want to see a clear or close right here, and it's right there. It's basically there, but you want this to close above that. That'll really start to confirm that, hey, this was a higher low. Now we're making a higher high and starting to turn the corner after a very big pullback. I mean, Nano. Let's see what's Nano valuation here. Nano down to 397, still up there at 400 mil. That's huge, but we all know some of these names are just crazy high at one point. This was 4.5 billion. Had the big reset back to $2 and change, basically $3 now, and so looks like it may be forming a low versus BTC. Maybe. It looks good though. Tron. Where is Tron these days on the market cap list here? Just curious. Number 11. Still up there. Still up there here. So looking at Tron, this one actually, I was checking this one out. It looks pretty good here. Just it's trying to reverse here, showing some nice kind of reversal action here. Really the level that I'm going to be watching, there's two levels here on the BTC pair. There's this most recent swing high, and it's kind of a little bit of a zone, right? You got this support that broke down that is now resistance, and so it's going to need to clear this, but getting into that zone will be positive, and then you're going to need to clear above that to kind of confirm. But it's looking pretty good here from a BTC pair. Needs to turn the corner here. On the daily, it's above what yesterday closed above the 10 EMA. It's pulling back now, so you can see it's got that resistance that it really needs to clear here on the daily chart. But man, big pullback here on Tron daily. RSI hit the extreme lows, like so many names here. Maybe it's finally done. It's a nice little rounding out there at the lows. Now Tron also trades tether pair on Binance. Let's see how that looks. Been very strong here. Nice little breakout on Tron above 35 cents. Give you this little pullback. Still going higher and kind of hitting a little bit of a wall here around 40 cents. Aeon. Pulling in a little bit here. Yeah, this pattern is not quite as strong as some of these others. After it broke support, look at that, just really pulled back hard here. Hit some extreme oversold conditions. Now it's kind of just letting the RSI cool off a little bit. Not quite as strong as some of these others here. So I'd like to see a little bit more reversal action to the upside. Let's see. Stratus has been one of the stronger names today. Still moving nicely here, marching up strongly uptrend here on Stratus. Looking at the daily chart, again, another one that I think is just getting started. So many of these names are forming this pattern here. Look at that bullish divergence on the RSI, just a very strong divergence there. And just now approaching the neckline here, right? Hasn't even confirmed a true breakout yet, but looking like a nice double bottom there on Stratus. Trace, let me go to Carnegie for Trace. On KuCoin, showing Trace on KuCoin. I'm going to go to the daily. I know this is a lower volume name, smaller cap. If you're not familiar with this, it's a supply chain name. You know, the whole tracking and RFID and data, but one of the supply chain names to keep an eye on. Man, it's right near the lows here on this chart. I mean, just historic lows. So this is a must-hold level, in my opinion, for Trace. Looking at, I mean, look at all those wicks there. We're just trying to hold and testing it right here. So it's got to really hold on a closing basis. The good news is you're seeing some little bit positive momentum on the RSI. Has not confirmed though. Still not bullish per se, but it's right at a key long-time price support level there. VeChain Thor will crush Trace. You know, there's going to be a lot of competition in that space, and yeah, I think VeChain just has the partnerships and has some of the, you know, first mover advantages and all of that stuff. Walton, it's another one. They don't really compete per se. There's Room, there's Wabi, there's a few of them. All right, let's see. Nem, didn't forget about you. Let's see here. So looking at NEM, what was I looking at earlier today? NEM was showing some momentum here earlier. It's kind of rolling over, not really had that initial move higher and just really kind of didn't confirm here. So I was watching this, looking for a close, give you one candle, just pulled right back here. On the daily chart, it was trying to attempt a little bit of a double bottom here, higher low. So we'll see if that holds. That's really going to be the level to be watching on NEM here near term. Sorry about that. Let me pull this up here. I'm losing my voice a little bit. I did an hour stream last night, an hour and a half today, and now this guy. So I should just be a radio host. Radio. Do you guys remember that? Radio back in the day? Radio before streaming. So looking at, yeah, this is kind of a must hold. And it could dip a little lower and maybe hold this double bottom here. That's what you want to see. Find some support there on NEM. But it is the RSI is showing some positive divergence there. What's your risk to reward for trade setups? That's a good question. And it just depends on the type of setup. But let me answer it this way. What I look for is what's the risk exposure on any one trade to my total portfolio. Meaning, if I have let's use easy numbers, if I have a $10,000 portfolio and I'm only willing to risk 1% of that on any one trade, then the amount of tokens or shares or whatever that I buy is going to be based on my stop, right? So let me use BTC as an example here for that. Let's say I wanted to buy Bitcoin here at 7,300, and I'm only willing to risk 1% of my portfolio at $10,000. That basically equals $100, right? So if I'm only willing to risk $100, then that means on, let's say my stop, I want to keep a stop at, you know, down here, right? A huge stop, 7% stop. Then that means I can only buy $1,400 worth of Bitcoin, right? Because if it goes down 7%, then I will hit my $100 threshold, if that makes sense. And so that's how you do it, right? So you always want to pick a stop that makes sense. Something in the charts, a price point, you know, a price point plus, a moving average, something. And then you adjust your position size to reflect the stop, and then that should align with your risk tolerance that you have set up in your trading plan. I know that's a mouthful there, but that's how you do it. Now, that being said, I don't have to do this complicated math every time because I tend to find setups that that generally give me about 3 to 6% stops, and usually smaller. I'm generally kind of like the 2 to 4%. And so, after I do so many trades, the size of position tends to be about the same, and I generally will weigh it in BTC. So I'll say, X amount of BTC per trade based on that risk management. So, and so as far as the risk reward ratio that I look for, that depends on the specific trade, but it won't necessarily preclude me from taking a trade, right? So like, I know some guys will only look for a 3-to-1 ratio, or they only want to hit the big ones. They're only looking for 4 or 5-to-1. But I won't necessarily do that, right? If I find a low risk trade and the ratio on the upside is only 3-to-1 is kind of my goal. But if it's less, but it looks like a low risk trade and momentum's there, I may take the quick trade and just bank the profits, right? I know a lot of forex traders, they do a risk reward ratio of 1-to-1. But the difference is they're using strategies that have a more than 50% win rate, right? So if your win rate on your strategy is 60% with a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio, over the long run, you're still making money, right? If you're using a 3-to-1 ratio, heck, you could be wrong 60% of the time and you're still making money, right? And so it just kind of depends on your strategy and the win ratios that you're using. So that's all going to be covered in my upcoming trading course. All right. You're still waiting for 5K BTC. Oh, man. I don't know where you got that 5K number. The flippening, remember that? Oh, that was wild. Have I tried using the long position on TradingView? Yep. And so the way you do that here is if you want to use a quick risk reward ratio on TradingView, you can do long or short. It gives you the same thing. And you just place it there, and it always blows up half the window, which is weird. I don't understand why they do that. So you always have to move over and then squeeze it in. But then here's what you do. You basically adjust your stops. So let's say my stop is down here and my target is up here. Then you're looking at a 4.27 risk reward ratio, right? And so depending on where your target is and where you buy, you can adjust that and kind of see where your ratio is. Too much tone base. So yeah, and you can do it with the short side too. TradingView has a lot of really cool tools. I mean, it's by far my favorite. It's if you're doing active trading, I highly recommend it, even for other things, right? Stocks, forex. I mean, here's a short version of that, right? One of my favorite type of back testing tools on TradingView is the replay option. I don't know if you guys use that much, but the replay option is nice for back testing because you can pause it, say, here's where I would buy. Because it's easy to back test when you can see what's going to happen. But if you can't see what's actually going to happen, that's the way to back test, right? So let's say you're buying it. Let's say you're back testing from right here, and you're saying, okay, I'm gonna watch this price action here as it's happening real time. Boom, right? So you can back test that and see how it's happening kind of real time, and you can slow the speed down, you can speed it up, you can pause it, you can do anything. So very nice option if you're testing the strategy out. Let me see here. Digibytes. Let's take a look at Digibytes. Let me pause this here. We all know what happened today. No need to replay that. Digibytes. But Digibyte was a nice strong runner here a couple of weeks back. Gave you that quick move up. It's since been consolidating, and this was the telltale right here, right? This big outside reversal bar on huge volume that told me that this guy was probably done for now. I'm going to need to pause a little bit, and that's basically what we've seen happen so far. And so if you go to the 4-hour, you can see that was this candle, big volume reversal break to the downside. Since then, it had a little bit of a rally. I think you guys asked me about this one in my last stream, and I said it just looks like it's wedging up, to be honest with you, and that's what it was. It was a wedge, and you can see it broke bearish and just kind of consolidating still. Not horrible, right? Because on the daily chart, it's kind of hanging out here near these highs, so that's good, but it needs more time. It's finally letting this moving average catch up. This here, that's nice. That big outside reversal on the daily. And so that's positive, and now you're getting a little bit of a throwback. So maybe that's it. Maybe that shows that that's the ultimate low on this guy, and now you're looking for some more upside action on Digibyte. So the consolidation may be over, but it's still consolidating here. Let's see here. I don't know what's with all the Tone talk today. You guys like Tone. I like Tone. He's a nice guy. I've met him. All right. Let me see here. What else? Elf, Dragon. Power. Oh, man, Power. Do a few of those here real quick. Then I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here in about, let's call it 10 minutes or so. And we will call the stream done. So thanks for being here today, guys. I appreciate all the support. Appreciate the live commentary, the jokes, the comments. Appreciate the likes and subscribes. All right, Power. Man, Power has been tough. Power had that nice volume pop to the upside. It just these crazy wicks. The daily chart looks good from that perspective. Just the momentum is certainly strong. And, once you see these big volume breaks, you pay attention, right? When you see that type of action, should get on your radar at least, right? And you're seeing that pullback, and you saw another day here with the big volume pop. But if you zoom in, look under the surface, it's been tough just because it's, very quick, high wicks, and then just pulls back, and then quick reversals, pulls back. But, the trend has certainly been strong, and it's looking better here now that it's starting to really gain some momentum. So Power is looking good from that perspective. One of the few that's not really pulling in hard versus BTC. 2 more hours. All right, I'll be live until Bitcoin hits 8K, and then I'm calling it a day. Let's see here. What else? What was the other one you guys wanted? Oh, Elf. Oh, Faye, not too bad here, Elf. Nice little double bottom action happening here on Elf. Oops, wrong click. So you've got a good, got a nice little double bottom here with some strong bullish divergence on the RSI. Looking there. So this is your confirmation here on the double bottom. And I like this this support bar here that's forming on the daily. Big outside bar had a chance to sell off and really recovered and looking strong. We've got about 12 minutes left before the close of this day. And so many charts are going to look very nice if they all hold up here on the close. Bitcoin will absolutely look nice on that daily charts. Beautiful breakouts today. And so, yeah, Alpha is looking pretty good here off the lows. Marching higher here, not too bad. So we did Icon. Just to recap, man, Icon is it's still drifting lower. Let's just say that. Short term, it's showing some potential, but I want to see this thing around the corner and at least get above this near-term resistance, call it 2,400. That'll at least start to show some positive momentum. And the volume is showing up there, but it's just so far still making a series of lower lows and lower highs, and that needs to turn the corner. Oh, let's see here. I'm just kidding about the BTC 8K. Everyone's like, what? Bitcoin 8,000, what? What did I miss? Not yet. Let's see what else we got going on here. BQX was one that I was looking at here. So yes, we will take a look at that guy. And so looking at BQX, I mean, it's, let me zoom in a little bit. It was setting up for a little bit of a potential breakout yesterday. I was watching this action here as it was sitting real tight and just kind of trying to edge out above this resistance. And then just kind of got hit today with some of the pullback action that we saw in a lot of alts versus BTC. But it's still on my watch list here. I'm watching this one just because it's near the lows, looking for a potential reversal here. So right now, the first level I'm going to be watching is basically 216 and around there. And if we can get above that on a closing basis, that'll at least start to signal that, hey, maybe it's done, finding a little bit of a low here. So, but until then, just going to be on my watch list right now. Yeah, so we did BAT, kind of pulling in a little bit here. It's hitting the 10 EMA on the daily, so that's kind of first support right now. I still like it. I was looking for a potential breakout. Didn't quite break out. Now we're seeing a little bit of a pullback on a lot of those Coinbase names here, but they've had a strong rally, man. All right, let's do a couple more. Loom. Yeah, Loom. Man, Loom was moving here earlier. Loom, man. Loom had that big push last week and then just basically retraced the entire move. And here it is. Trying again today. Nice, strong action, stair-stepping its way higher again. And this one makes for some big moves, but it's certainly volatile here. I mean, that's a 20%er big wick here at the top, pulling in a little bit. So I don't know. That's a tough one here. You had this big outside reversal bar, and you get the pull back here on high volume. So it's still looking good from that perspective. It's just kind of stair-stepping its way higher, breaking above resistance, pulling back to support, breaking above resistance. And so that one's still turning the corner there. Did we do ZIL? I think we did. Maybe not. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We did ZIL. That was looking pretty good here, turning the corner. But Salt, is Salt still pumping? We were looking at Salt earlier. It's big wick on Salt, pulling in a little bit here. Let's go back to BTC. BTC sitting tight here for the last 5 hours, so that's looking good. This daily candle will be closing here near the highs. We've got about 8 minutes left, and the volume there is beautiful. That's a solid breakout. That's exactly what you want to see on this pattern. The breakout volume, it doesn't need to be huge, but ideally that makes for a better breakout. And obviously this was huge. And so that's a nice breakout of this pattern. This was textbook, man. I mean, just the big volume on the head and the left shoulder, the smaller volume here. You had the pullback right to the 618 level on this retracement. And then we had the round the corner. I mean, just it's been a long time since we've seen a nice reversal play out, almost perfectly like that. So it's been nice to see that here. And the fact that the reversal took so long, it was painful, but the fact that it took so long is very positive. The fact that, after such a big drop, we had just basically a little bit over a month of just consolidation, turning the corner, all that. That's very positive. That's much stronger than this kind of a low that we saw back in March, April, even though that was a good low. This is much stronger, better to see here. So looking pretty good. How do you trade your trade exits? That's tough. And there's certain exchanges that will let you do both. One cancels other orders. And the short answer to that is, if I'm taking a trade overnight, and if I can't, you can use Coinigy and you can actually put APIs and put your trades in here. I personally just don't, but you could. If I'm taking a trade overnight, it depends on how much in the green I am. If I'm well into the green, then I may put the target profit number in there and let it stop me out and take me out on a trade. If it just entered and I'm just now barely there or barely in the green, my stop is the priority at that point. And so I'll take a trade overnight and put a stop in place to the downside. And sometimes you miss some, right? I wake up the next day and you can see there was a big wick to the upside and pulled right back. And that's what happens. But it's okay. And that's for shorter term. I mean, if you're kind of doing more swing trades, 4-hour charts or longer, you probably don't have to worry about that as much. Oh, Lisk. Sorry about that here. I know you guys asked about Lisk here earlier. I'll do Lisk, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And you guys can start joining some other live streams. All right, so Lisk, man, Lisk. Come on, Lisk. Still no life here. Pulling in here, just making new lows. Still pulling in versus BTC here. The one positive on Lisk, as it continues to drive into new lows, you can see there is a bullish divergence starting to form on that RSI daily over the last 2 weeks or so, but there's certainly no bullish confirmation just yet here on Lisk. So it tried here. It had that nice little pop here to the upside on very strong volume. Unfortunately, no follow through, and just seeing the last several 4-hour candles continue to pull in. Astronauts, crypto astronauts. I'm wearing my nerdy NASA shirt today, by the way. All right. It was appropriate to wear a NASA shirt on the day we had the rocket. And I didn't plan that. Today was just a good day to wear the NASA shirt. Oh, all right. Okay, guys. I think that's going to do it for today. If I didn't catch your name, your coin that you wanted me to look at, I apologize. We looked at a ton, and so I really appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate the likes and the subscribes and all the support, and we'll keep you guys posted. Until next time, happy trading, everyone. Take care.